What would make young, promising students abandon their education for the allure of nightlife? Stay tuned, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more captivating stories like this. Abuja was a city of dreams, a sprawling urban jungle filled with opportunities, bright lights, and endless possibilities. It was a place where the young believed anything was possible, but for some, the path to success wasn't paved with books and lectures. In the heart of the city stood Victory High School, known for shaping the minds of brilliant students. Among its brightest were Cynthia and Deji, two final-year students with dreams as big as the skyscrapers that lined Abuja's skyline. Cynthia wanted to be a lawyer, while Deji dreamed of becoming an engineer. They were the pride of their families and the envy of their classmates. But everything changed one fateful afternoon. It started with an invitation. "Deji, you won't believe this," Cynthia whispered during lunch break, her eyes gleaming with excitement. "Do you know about Club Mirage in Woods? Sandra said they're hosting a massive party this Friday, and she got us tickets." Deji frowned, pushing his plate of jollof rice aside. "A club? Cynthia, you know my parents will kill me if they find out." "Oh, come on," Cynthia said, rolling her eyes. "It's just one night. Besides, we deserve a little fun after all this studying. Don't you ever get tired of living like a monk?" Deji hesitated, but Cynthia's words lingered. He had always been the quiet, disciplined one, while Cynthia had a knack for convincing people to see things her way. By Friday, he found himself standing in front of Club Mirage, the neon lights reflecting in his wide eyes. The music was deafening, the bass vibrating through their chest as they stepped inside. The air was thick with perfume and smoke, and the dance floor was packed with bodies moving in rhythm to the beats. Cynthia seemed right at home, pulling Deji onto the floor. "This is amazing," she shouted over the music. Deji smiled hesitantly. It was unlike anything he'd ever experienced. For the first time, he felt alive, unburdened by the weight of expectations. But as the night wore on, something changed. Deji noticed the crowd wasn't just young people like them. Older men lingered at the bar, their eyes scanning the room. Women dressed in glittering outfits exchanged whispers in dark corners. "This place feels different," Deji muttered to Cynthia. She laughed. "You're overthinking it. Relax." One night turned into 2. Then 3. Before long, Cynthia and Deji were sneaking out almost every weekend. They started skipping classes to recover from late nights and ignored warnings from their teachers. "What's going on with you two?" Mrs. Bello, their English teacher, asked one afternoon. "You're both failing your test, and you used to be my best students." "We're fine, Ma," Cynthia replied, forcing a smile. "Just a little tired, that's all." But the truth was far darker. One night at the club, a man approached them. He was tall, dressed in an expensive suit, and wore a gold watch that gleamed under the strobe lights. "I've been watching you too," he said, his voice smooth as silk. "You seem like smart kids. How would you like to make some real money?" Deji froze, alarm bells ringing in his head. "What kind of money?" The man smiled. "All you have to do is run a few errands for me. Easy stuff. You'll be paid well." Cynthia's eyes lit up. "How much are we talking about?" "Enough to make your friends jealous." Despite Deji's protest, Cynthia convinced him to accept the offer. Their first task seemed harmless enough, delivering a package to a hotel in Gaki. The man handed them a small, tightly wrapped parcel and a wad of cash. "This is wrong," Deji whispered as they left the club. "We don't even know what's inside." "It's just a delivery," Cynthia said, pocketing the money. "Stop being so paranoid." But Deji couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Weeks passed, and the deliveries became more frequent. The money was good too good. Cynthia bought new clothes, while Deji paid off his school fees. But their lives were spiraling out of control. One night, during a delivery, they were stopped by a police checkpoint. "What's in the bag?" the officer asked, his flashlight illuminating their terrified faces. It's just books," Cynthia stammered. "Open it," the officer demanded. Inside the bag were packets of white powder. Deji's heart sank. "We're finished," he thought. They were taken to the station, their faces plastered with shame. Cynthia cried as they sat in the dimly lit cell, while Deji stared at the floor, his mind racing. "I told you this was a bad idea," he muttered. "You think I wanted this?" Cynthia snapped. "We needed the money." Their families arrived hours later, their expressions a mix of anger and disappointment. "How could you do this?" Deji's mother sobbed. But the story didn't end there. As the investigation unfolded, it was revealed that the man with the golden watch was part of a dangerous cartel. Cynthia and Deji were pawns in a much larger game. What's worse, the club they loved so much was a front for illegal activities, and their faces were caught on security cameras delivering packages. Their once bright futures were now hanging by a thread. The cold, grey walls of the police cell were a far cry from the glittering lights of Club Mirage. Cynthia and Deji sat in silence, their minds replaying the events that led to their arrest. Cynthia, who had always been bold and confident, now looked defeated. Deji, on the other hand, struggled to contain his anger. "This is all your fault," he muttered, breaking the silence. "My fault?" Cynthia snapped, her voice trembling. "You didn't have to come with me." They glared at each other, but deep down, they knew they were both to blame. 2 weeks later, they found themselves standing before a judge. Their parents sat in the courtroom, their faces etched with worry. The prosecutor painted a grim picture of 2 students who had thrown away their futures for quick money, while their defense lawyer argued that they were victims of manipulation. "They are young and impressionable," the lawyer pleaded. "They made a mistake, but they deserve a second chance." The judge frowned as he reviewed the evidence. The man with the golden watch had vanished, leaving Cynthia and Deji to face the full weight of the law. "I'm placing both of you in a rehabilitation program for 6 months, the judge finally declared. "You will also perform community service. Consider this your only warning." Relief washed over their families, but Cynthia and Deji knew their troubles were far from over. The program was rigorous. Every morning, they attended counseling sessions where they were forced to confront the choices they had made. Deji hated talking about his feelings, but his counselor, Mrs. Adebayo, wouldn't let him off the hook. "Why did you agree to make those deliveries?" she asked one day. Deji sighed. "I thought it was harmless. And honestly, I was tired of being the boring, broke kid." Mrs. Adebayo nodded. "And now?" "Now I just feel stupid," he admitted. Cynthia, meanwhile, struggled with guilt. Her counselor, Mr. Ajayi, pushed her to see how her actions had hurt not only herself but also those who cared about her. "You're a natural leader, Cynthia," he said. "But you used that gift to lead someone else astray. How will you make it right?" As part of their community service, Cynthia and Deji were assigned to clean up an abandoned lot in Wos. It was hard, dirty work, but it gave them plenty of time to talk. "Do you think we'll ever live this down?" Cynthia asked one afternoon, wiping sweat from her forehead. Deji shrugged. "Maybe not. But we can try to be better." Just as they began to rebuild their lives, they received shocking news. The police had raided Club Mirage and uncovered a massive drug operation. The man with the golden watch had been arrested, along with several other high-profile figures. "We were just pawns in their game," Deji said bitterly. "But at least they are paying for it now," Cynthia replied. 6 months later, Cynthia and Deji returned to Victory High School. Their classmates whispered behind their backs, and some teachers treated them with thinly veiled contempt. But there were also moments of kindness. "Welcome back," Mrs. Bello said one morning. "I hope you've learned from your experience." "We have," Deji replied quietly. Rebuilding their reputations wasn't easy. They threw themselves into their studies, determined to prove that they weren't defined by their mistakes. Cynthia joined the debate team, while Deji became a mentor for younger students. Just when life seemed to be getting back on track, Cynthia received a mysterious letter. It was from the man with the golden watch. "How did he get my address?" she whispered, her hands trembling as she opened the envelope. The letter was brief but chilling. "You think you're free, but I never forget. Watch your back." Cynthia showed the letter to Deji, who immediately took it to the police. "This isn't over," he said grimly. One evening, as Cynthia walked home from school, she noticed a black car following her. Her heart pounded as she quickened her pace, but the car kept creeping closer. She ducked into an alley, her mind racing. Suddenly, a figure stepped out of the shadows. It was Deji. "I've been following you," he admitted. "I had a feeling something like this would happen." The black car screeched to a halt, and 2 men stepped out. They were large and intimidating, their faces hidden by sunglasses. "You've caused us a lot of trouble," one of them growled. Cynthia and Deji stood their ground, refusing to show fear. "What do you want?" Deji demanded. The men exchanged a glance before one of them said, "A message. Stay out of our business, or next time, you won't be so lucky." The encounter shook them to their core, but it also gave them a sense of purpose. They decided to work with the police to bring down the remnants of the cartel. Their courage paid off. The police launched a series of raids, dismantling the organization piece by piece. Cynthia and Deji's names were cleared, and they were hailed as heroes for their bravery. Years later, Cynthia became a successful lawyer, fighting for justice and mentoring troubled youth. Deji fulfilled his dream of becoming an engineer and started a foundation to support underprivileged students. Their paths hadn't been easy, but their experiences taught them resilience and the power of second chances. And that's the story of how 2 students turned their mistakes into a message of hope. What choices are you making today? Remember, it's never too late to turn your life around. Don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring stories.